if you're doing any of these mistakes, you're most likely going to fail in music production. These are top 11 most repeated thinking traps, myths, or misconceptions about music productions that beginners make that are potentially hurting you and your music career. So without any further ado, let's jump into the list. Myth number 1, you need expensive gear to start producing. Well, in fact, what you need is probably just a computer or even a tablet, maybe a set of good headphones, and there you go. You can do everything with a mouse and keyboard. You can have even a free DAW and really cheap plugins or free plugins. If you're interested in heavy Ableton, there is an option to get it almost for free. There's no excuse. You don't need to have an expensive gear. You can start making music right away. What matters the most will be your creativity and maybe a little bit of knowledge of how things work, how to run the program, how to operate it, how to create some simple melodies and chords. But yeah, this knowledge is available to gain everywhere. So no excuses. You don't need an expensive gear. Myth number 2, you need to be experienced musician, trained musician to be making music. Well, that's actually not true because many of the music producers haven't gone through music schools, me included. But if you have a little bit of musical feeling, you can start experimenting. You can strike a random chord and see if it works with any other thing. You can just create simple melodies just to sing over things. You have your music brain already working, so you don't need any formal training to start making music. In fact, you don't need to know any music theory whatsoever. You can just start experimenting, putting things together, sounds together, chords one after another, and see what works, what not. And if not, you have the modern tools like MIDI packs, you have your DAW that will probably show you the scale you're in, or you can pick the scale and then you know which notes to use and which are probably a bit spicy or a bit off or not working at all. And over time, you'll build all these confidence and you'll build your own recipes, what works with what and what doesn't work, and that will create your own music theory. And quite contrary to the previous one, myth number 3, I don't need to learn music theory, my ears will guide me. How many times I've heard that, and this is so wrong on so many levels. But let's start from the beginning. While having a great ear and a little bit of a talent is invaluable, it is actually the most important thing you can have. But learning some kind of music theory, treated like a dictionary of what things are, how are they called, like just to be able to communicate with others and basically growing up your toolkit, because music theory is nothing else than a toolkit. Knowing what works with what gets you faster into music production, gets the result faster. You know what to avoid straight from the get-go. Of course, if you know the rules, you know you can break the rules. But first, it's good to know at least some of the rules. You don't need to learn all the music theory at the beginning or everything, or just go to school. Just learn bit by bit while you go. The knowledge will grow. So what I encourage you to do, especially at the beginning, try random stuff, strike a random chord, just put your hand on the keyboard or whatever, or strum whatever chord you have on the guitar and see if it works, why it works, then try to work it out. What notes are in the chord, why do they work together, or maybe they don't, maybe you can change one note. And little by little, before you notice, you'll know at least a bit of the music theory that will actually be helping you while making music, starting faster and finishing faster. And myth number 4, super important, so many people falling into this trap, me included. Everything has to be perfect before being released. Done is better than perfect. It's actually even more important, especially for the beginners, to be doing more tracks and finishing more than making better tracks, because the quality will come with the progress. So the more reps you do, like going to the gym, the more knowledge and experience you gain, the better the next track will be. And I know sometimes you have this idea, like I used to do many times, that you have such a great chord progression and the beat really slaps so good that you'll never ever have anything like that in your life. But trust me, you'll have better things than this. Just keep on going. Don't hold on to one project because it has to be perfect. It has to be perfect while releasing. You probably don't have enough skills, but that will come over time. So don't worry about that. Don't stress about that. Release as much music as you can. Learn, progress. You can always redo the music if you find it 2 years from now. That was actually super cool. Let's make a remix. Why not? You have the tool, that's yours. You can do whatever you want with it. Myth number 5. You need to understand every aspect of music production, like mixing, mastering, sound design, recording, everything. Well, you can just start little by little. Start with whatever you are comfortable with, and then you can always collaborate or use some tools like intelligent plugins, let's say Isotope Ozone for mastering or Neutron for mixing, or there's many other ones that will help you with these tasks that you feel like you might be lacking some knowledge, also experience. And it's actually good to acknowledge that I'm not very good at mixing, let's say, so I'm going to use some of the plugins, or I'm going to help my friend. And that's what I sometimes do. I send my tracks to my friend that will listen to my mix and tell me like, no, you have to cut this, you have to cut that, it doesn't sound well, it doesn't go well, and he's usually right. So yeah, And myth number 6, picking a genre just because it's easier to produce. How wrong it is on so many levels. There's no easy genres to produce. Well, there are some that are maybe a little bit more easier, but don't fall into this deceptive trap that, let's say, lo-fi is super easy to produce. It's as complicated as any other genre of music. Let's say ambient. Yeah, it maybe sounds that it's easy to produce, but it's not that easy. You have to know what works with what layers are there. That's also super complicated. So pop music is one of the most difficult types of music to produce. So don't fall into this trap and don't lock yourself into genre that you feel like, oh, this will be easy, so I'll just do this. Do whatever you love. Start little by little. It doesn't have to be perfect at the beginning. It will probably not be perfect at the beginning, but you'll get there eventually by doing what you love the most, which will just speed up your learning process a lot. Number 7, you need to spend hours every day to be able to make any kind of music. Well, that's not true, but of course it's good to have some kind of routine and to be consistent in things that you do, to be able to go every day and to do a little bit of music. That's super important. That will get you really fast into where you want to go. But sometimes it's not realistic to be sitting for 7 or 8 hours, and especially sitting the whole night with the project and doing the project, because you'll quickly get your ears tired and your brain tired, and you won't be able to produce anything good and anything sounding nice. You wake up in the morning, you'll realize it sounds like shit, so there's no point. So take your time, make sure you are very well nutritioned and you have your breaks and you take your time off, and then even 10 minutes, 15 minutes a day, you can do something little by little. If you don't feel like creating music, composing, you can do mixing, you can do mastering. And I happen to have a really cool workflow trick on how to get the most of your everyday session, and I'll make the video about that in nearby future. Myth number 8, good music production is all about loudness. Loudness wars, such a famous word and expression in the music production world. While obviously humans are naturally wired to be paying more attention to louder noises, louder voices, it is not actually true, because if you push too much loudness, you lose lots of dynamics and lots of the magic that happens in the song. So listen to any of the classical music, there's so much dynamic. There are moments that are super quiet, there are moments that are super loud, but you have this dynamic to work with. That's a contrast. You need to have something quiet to be able to be loud. So work with your brain on, think of, if you want to drop, make it loud, make it hit, but also have to have nice places on your song and your beats to relax. And number 9, you have to know everything about technology. Okay, while knowing how to put everything together to make it work may be a little bit difficult, you can do step by step. Just know how to plug in your microphone, how to set up the loudness, how the DAW works in terms of how to press record, what buttons does what, just the basic knowledge. You can always grow while you go. And remember that just knowing how MIDI keyboard works from inside out, or how the guitar pickups work, it is cool knowledge, but you don't need to know that to be able to make music. And myth number 10, it's a big one. If you're not getting streams, your music probably sucks. That couldn't be farthest from true. Your music probably is really good, really interesting and cool, but the biggest flaw in the whole system is just because you uploaded something to Spotify doesn't mean that everybody will just listen to it like they listen to the biggest producer. What you need to do is to do some kind of marketing, whether we want it or not. I'm struggling with that myself a little bit, so I'm learning that. Everybody's learning, and you probably should too, whether you like to do TikTok videos, whether you like to do Instagram reels or whatever. Just find where your audience is, what they're doing, how to get in their lives, and find a way to promote your music the best way possible. And don't bring yourself down by thinking your music is bad or worse or anything. Just work on the marketing and you'll be shocked with the results. And before we go to the last one, number 11, if you have any other myths or misconceptions that you want to mention, let's talk about them in the comment box down below. And just a little reminder, I have a Patreon, so you can sign in to help me with this channel and to support this channel. I would highly appreciate if you do so. And by doing that, I guarantee you getting early access to all the videos, all the samples and patches that I do on my channel for free, and also you get to hear my music earlier than everybody else. So yeah, it's only €3 or $3 a month, and the link is in the description box down below. Thanks so much. But now, number 11. It's all about having the best plugins. So it is absolutely not necessary and not needed to get the most expensive and most complicated plugins in the industry, like Serum or Pigments or Fab Filters or whatever, as they are super great and they produce super nice sounds, or they filter in the way they do. They're just awesome. But at the beginning, you need to understand the basics. You need to understand how things work, and to be honest, most of the plugins are already in your DAW, all the equalizers, compressors, things that are actually enough and sufficient to create music. So you don't need to download anything. In fact, in some cases, some plugins can actually hurt your music production learning process. Why is that? Watch this video to find out. Now, that's it from me for today. Thanks so much for watching. See you guys next video. Cheers.